Some viewers have asked, how long should a woman's skirt be according to halakha? What is the rabbi's view on the matter?
The Talmud Bavli, Kaf Aleph 24a, in Masechet Berachot, states, Shok be'isha arwa, that the part of the body of a woman referred to as the shok is arwa. The word arwa means that this is an alluring part of the female anatomy, and this is a part of the body that needs to be kept covered in public. With regards to the definition of the term shok, what part of the anatomy does this refer to? We find two opinions among the poskim. One opinion holds that the shok refers to the lower part of the leg, that is to say, the part of the leg from the knee down to the ankle. The other view understands the word shok in this particular source, at least in this sugya, to refer to the upper part of the leg, that is to say, the thigh, from the knee upwards. This second interpretation is in fact the view of the Mishnah Berurah in his Perush on the Shulchan Aruch Or HaHaim Siman Ayin Hei, based on the Parim Ghadim. The difference, of course, between these two interpretations is very obvious. According to those who state that the shok be'isha arwa refers to the thigh, then it is only the thigh down to the knee, including the knee, that needs to be covered at all times, whereas the lower part of the leg, from the knee down, it does not need to be covered. And this is the view, as I mentioned, of the Mishnah Berurah. And according to the other view, that the word shok refers to the lower part of the leg, in that case, the lower part of the leg has to be covered as well. It's not enough to cover the thigh, it is necessary to cover the lower part of the leg, the calf, etc. And therefore, we have two opinions as to the requisite length of a woman's skirt or dress. In truth, it is very difficult to understand the position of the Parim Ghadim and on what he bases his position. I could also mention here in passing that Rosh Yeshivat Merkaz Harav, Harav Tzvi Yehuda Kook Zetzal, son of the famous Rav Kook, in his very beautiful and gentle way expressed his chagrin and his disagreement with the Mishnah Berurah on this issue, and he said Shehu Mod Mitzta'er, that he is very chagrined and pained by the fact that the Mishnah Berurah wrote that this refers to the thigh and not to the lower part of the leg. As I said, it is very difficult to understand the position of the Parim Ghadim, which is also the position of the Mishnah Berurah, for many reasons. In simple terms, in Hebrew, the thigh, that is to say, the part of the leg from the knee upwards, is referred to as yarech, that is the thigh, and the part of the leg that is from the knee, below the knee, is referred to as shok. This is also, by the way, although perhaps the analogy is somewhat amusing, or some might even think inappropriate, but this is exactly how different parts of the leg of a chicken, for example, are referred to in standard everyday Hebrew. If one wishes to buy the thigh of the chicken, the upper part of the leg of the chicken, one refers to as yerechaim, as the thighs, and the lower part, the drumstick, is referred to as the shokain. And this is also what we find in the Mishnah Masechet Ahaloth, even though this is a lengthy discussion. We won't go into all the details, but based on what the Mishnah states there, the shok clearly refers to the part of the leg which is from the knee down to the ankle, and not the part of the leg which is above the knee. And this also is essentially common sense. We all know that the thigh of a woman is a particularly alluring part of the female anatomy, there's no question that needs to be covered, and that would not be something that the Gemara would need to mention. With regards to the shok, which is the part of the leg which is below the knee, one may have thought that there was not an issue, and that is exactly why the Gemara had to mention that, yes, this is also an issue. The shok also has to be covered. This is also the view of the Tosafot. There are many sources and many proofs that this term shok refers to the lower part of the leg. However, having said that, we need to add the following. As the Chazon Ish points out, Chazon Ish, by the way, also leans to this view, that the shok refers to the lower part of the leg, and therefore a woman's skirt or dress needs to be fairly long. That is to say, it's not enough that it goes down to the knee, even if it covers the knee, even if it covers the knee when sitting down. It needs to be longer. The question is how much longer, exactly to what point. As the Chazon Ish points out, if a woman walks barefoot, which is entirely permissible, and as he writes is common practice in some parts of the world, then clearly the skirt cannot be literally down to the ankles and covering the ankles as well. It's not practical to walk in the street in such a manner. The garment would become very dirty, and very possibly also the person would trip and hurt themselves. This is also not what we see in practice. It's not practicable, it's not reasonable. Therefore, he writes that we're talking about the part of the shok of the leg which is in the direction of the thigh, that is to say the upper part of the thigh, but not of the leg which is below the knee, which is closer to the thigh, but not the lower part. He doesn't define it more precisely than that. To me, it seems clear that if we define the shok for this purpose as the part of the leg below the knee where there is flesh, where there is clear, rounded and flesh that stands out, that is visible, and that is to say somewhat above the ankle, immediately above the ankle, the leg is not fleshy, but eventually begins to flesh out, as it were, and that the skirt has to cover all that part of the leg which is fleshed out to the lower, what we call in what we refer to in English as the muscle, the muscle behind the shin bone. As long as that area where it is rounded and full is covered, that is sufficient. That is with regards to the definition of the term shok. That is the halakha in my view, and I have no doubt that this is the requirement. It is not a humra, this is the shurat hadin, this is the requirement according to the halakha. I'm also aware that many women, religious women, do not abide by this halakhic requirement. And I would point out further that it is true, unfortunately, that in some parts of the religious world over the last several years, there has been regression. There has been an unfortunate development whereby many women are wearing skirts that barely even get to the knee, or certainly does not go below the knee. I remember a time 30 years ago, 20 years ago, perhaps even 10 years ago, in many parts of the religious world where this was not the case. Unfortunately, today this practice has crept in, and this is in fact lamentable and is problematic. And to those who would ask, well, why is this not acceptable? Well, first of all, we've explained the halakhic sources as to why this is not acceptable. And if a person is honest with themselves, a man or a woman, I think we all know that those parts of the leg, the lower part of the leg, below the knee, that we described earlier, these are also alluring parts of a woman's leg, a woman's anatomy. And this is exactly why, for example, women wear stockings. This is exactly why in different professions, in the fashion business, etc., they will tell you how important it is for the calf to be seen, etc., etc. This is exactly the opposite of the intention of the Torah. And no honest person, intellectually honest person, I think, would deny these facts. some women claim that they feel that they should be able to dress as they like, or certainly they should be able to wear a skirt that only goes down to the knee, because they feel that in this way they are expressing themselves, expressing their femininity. In response to that, I would say very simply that human beings have different drives and different inclinations, which are built into us, but the Torah, when it comes to many of these drives or inclinations, limits them and directs them in a certain direction, in a certain way. Certain things are appropriate in a certain place, but not in another place. Certain things are appropriate at a certain time, but not at another time. The fact of the matter is that many women who claim that they wish to be free and they want to be told what to do, are in fact oblivious to a simple fact, and that is that they are in fact choosing. They believe perhaps that they're choosing and deciding for themselves what to do and how to dress, but in fact they are being dictated to by the fashion industry, by foreign cultures, other societies, other civilizations that have other value systems and other ideas, which of course do not represent that which the Torah considers proper and necessary. And many women would like to think that they are free and expressing themselves, when in fact what they're doing is simply following the dictates of others, those who create clothes for them, those who present women in advertising in certain ways. And in fact what they're doing is enslaving themselves, in fact, and not at all being free and expressing themselves. There is clearly a biological drive built into women to be attractive to men, for the obvious reason of procreation and reproduction. But this too needs to be modulated and controlled according to the dictates of halakha. And this is one of the basic concepts of the Torah, and also in fact, by the way, at least till recent times, these were basic givens in all civilized societies. And therefore it is not proper, it does not behoove us to learn from the more recent unfortunate developments in Western culture, whereby that which was understood and without question to be correct and proper for centuries, in fact for millennia, more recently has gone by the by. This is not what we should be following. This is not the example we should follow. We need to follow the example of Am Yisrael throughout history. And throughout history the Jewish people were known for modesty and propriety. That is the halakha, and we should all wish to abide by it and to be proud that we live according to the Torah.
Thank you, Rabbi Bar-Hayim. We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. We would also like to suggest the following opportunity to our viewers. If you identify with Rabbi Bar-Hayim's message and would like to sponsor or dedicate a video interview with the rabbi in honor or memory of a loved one, if you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.